Well, I can start, Will, by saying how much I enjoyed the film. Really, really good. It's great
Good.
fun.
Did they send you a link?
They did, yeah. So I've not seen it sadly on the big screen, but I did, it worked well in the living room. But I mean, I was just wondering because just about getting that tone right, because this film is so kind of playful and irreverent at times. It really appeals to kind of the children in the audience, but there's a really witty and very kind of meta undercurrent in there for adults as well. Was that quite a fun challenge for you, but quite a difficult challenge to make sure that you were able to appeal to both demographics?
Well, I think all my films have an element of meta-ness to them, much to the studio's chagrin. But I also, for this movie and for the last movie, we kept saying we didn't want to make a movie for kids. If this joke, well, the kids would like it. That doesn't. We had to just make a movie that we all enjoyed, kids and adults. So there are a lot of stuff, themes, and jokes in this movie, as you saw, that are for adults, and that some kids will get, some kids won't get. But the interesting thing is, I love going to theaters before. Well, now again, we can go to theaters again and watching certain people laugh at different things. And then what I really like is when they both laugh at the same thing, even though it's kind of a more of a smarter joke, because I think adults give kids an incredible amount they give them short shrift. They think kids are much dumber than they really are.
Yeah, because I mean there are so many really good jokes in this, and there's just moments I was sort of laughing out loud. But it made me think about the comedic abilities of Domhnall and Rose. They're fantastic comedic actors, aren't they? That as a pair, and even David actually, for that matter.
Oh yeah, I wanted to do my first additional idea for this movie was that I wanted to make two movies. I wanted to make the beginning movie start a story, and then Domhnall and Rose go off, and the adults would then go to a different theater and watch like a romantic kind of a thriller comedy, and then the kids would stay in that theater, but the last act of the movies would all be the same.
Oh,
So they all go back in the theater for the last act. And I think I pitched this to the studio, and I think the heads exploded.
It's worth a go though. Worth a go.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, I also found it's sort of an odd thing to say about a bunny, I suppose. That Peter Rabbit is quite a flawed protagonist. We don't often see that a lot in films of this nature, particularly kind of in animated characters. Was that quite important for you that he wasn't always, and he's not always the most likable sort of protagonist at times, Peter?
No, Peter is a teenager, right? So the first movie he was like 13 or 14, and now he's like, I'd say about 16, 17, we're saying. And believe me, as we all know, those kids are flawed. We're all flawed. So yeah, I didn't want him to be amazing. I wanted him to make a lot of mistakes. I wanted to learn from him from some mistakes, but I really wanted people to look at him and say, oh, I would have made that mistake, or I know someone who made that mistake, and move on and learn from it. But if there is the third movie, he's going to be even more flawed, because as we get older, as we all know, we get more and more flawed. We don't go the other way.
It was quite fun directing some of the actors to react to things that aren't now. I mean, obviously, there's one scene in the market where there's lots of sort of people being hit and knocked over and stuff. How was that for you, sort of directing people to kind of have to react to imaginary things? Did you ever kind of stop and think, this is quite silly, isn't it? But in a good way.
Many times. You get so into it, and the crew, this is the second time we made this movie with the actors and the crew, so they get so attuned to it. But those scenes were crazy. It took us 5 weeks to shoot those scenes, and the craziest moment was of this movie is when we had there's a big wheel of cheese that rolls, and we built a cheese camera, which was a big cheese. And there was a moment when we shot that there was a big roll of cheese with a blue stick and 2 blue people and all full blue with the camera mounted to the cheese. And it took us like half the day to shoot it. And you just take a step back and like, what are we doing? This is bananas. And then it's in the movie for about 9 seconds.
So yeah. only in the movies could you have a cheese camera. That's
cheese cam. Cheese cam. Yeah. And the funny thing about that, on the schedule, it kept saying cheese cam, cheese cam. Have you built the cheese cam yet? So.
And the first Peter Rabbit was a great success, and not just with audiences but critics alike. It just really seemed to be so well received. When making a sequel, do you almost have to not pay attention to what people responded to, in a sense that can that interfere sometimes when you with that? Because I guess what you don't want to do is make a film that plays into people's hands. You still have to make something very true to yourself as a storyteller. I just wondered about doing that and kind of appeasing them and giving them more of what they want, but not giving them too much of what they want, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, well, I'm not. I mean, I think anyone who says they don't read reviews is lying. So I do know what people think about it, and it does affect me because I just want people to I just want people to have a good experience. So there are moments in this movie, because as you saw, the movie is very meta, that talks about reviews and it talks about now, should I have done that? Should I have probably let it go? I probably should have let it go, but I just want people to be aware of the fact that we're aware. I don't think anything lives in a vacuum, is my point. So we tried to kind of give a nod, but not spend a lot of time on it.
And of course, the film has been pushed back a couple of times due to the pandemic. I just wondered when you know that the film has now got an extra few months before release, for example, was there ever a temptation to go back and make little amendments here and there? Or because that's the same if I have an article and it was supposed to be done for like a Friday, and then realize that the extension's pushed by 2 weeks, I'll just spend the next 2 weeks going in and putting little extra things. And I wondered if you just had to completely leave it alone, or was there a temptation to go in and make small sort of things along the way?
Yeah, they always say, and it's true, that these type of movies aren't finished, they're abandoned, meaning like it's time to stop. And that's what it was for this movie too. We finished like in midnight on 2 days before the premiere was going to happen. And then once we kept getting pushed back, I wanted to go back in every day and change everything. But the difference between an article and this is that once you lock a movie, to unlock it costs the studio a lot of money. And you have to have a really good, compelling reason for them to want to do it. And, this is the kind of thing I could have worked on it for another year and I would have felt it was different, but I would have showed it to other people and they would have not known any different. So the short answer is they wouldn't let me.
You must be so thrilled though that they did wait and it is coming out now, and getting the kind of big screen experience a movie like this deserves, because so many films over the last sort of 18 months have been given virtual releases or pushed onto demand, but this really held strong for theatrical. As the director of the film, were you quite pleased that was the case?
Yeah, I was quite pleased, and I was quite instrumental in lobbying for it, and the studio luckily agreed and felt that this is a theatrical. So I'm very happy. I'm hoping that people want to go to the theaters. What do you think? What do you think the feeling is there?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's hard. I can only sort of speak for myself and my friends and the kind of people that I surround myself with, but everyone's kind of just gagging to go back. I think there was, if this was like last year when we sort of tentatively started resuming to sort of normality, people were a little bit funny about going back to things like this. But I think now it's been such a long time, those apprehensions seem to be easing, and we've got such a good vaccine rollout in the UK that people are feeling quite relaxed. So I'm anticipating a lot of people going to the cinema.
Yeah, I mean, I want people to go. I want people to get out of the house and go. And I keep saying that in the pandemic, everyone's watched stuff at home, but they've watched it separately. They haven't watched it together. You're in one room, someone else is in the other room, the kids are in the other room. So I just like the idea of the whole family or for grandkids or friends going together and having a shared experience to be able to talk about it afterwards is what we really miss about not going to the theater.
I'm just wondering too about, I think I interviewed you back for Peter Rabbit 1 and we spoke about the potential in Peter Rabbit 2, and here we are. So now I'm going to ask you about Peter Rabbit 3. I think there's so much scope, isn't there, for these characters in this world to be expanded. Is it something you'd be interested in taking on?
So yeah, Peter Rabbit 3 I've almost finished writing it. The idea is bananas, but it's really hard to do a sequel, and I think it's even harder to do a third one. But we have the advantage of kind of the meta nature of ours. So the opening scene of the third movie is absolutely crazy.
It's just what I wanted to hear. I was going to ask you too, because it's actually funny. I was thinking today that the first job I ever had doing what I do was Easy A. So that was the first time I ever got a commission to go and do something.
Did you go to Mexico?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
No. Just it was just the first film I ever covered here in London. Oh. And I was thinking about it recently because it's really, I was going to say stood the test of time, but it feels like a classic kind of timeless rom-com. And now time has passed. Does it kind of feel strange that it's now being watched or perceived as a kind of a classic? Because I guess when you made it, it was modern, it was current, but it's 12 years old now, and I guess it's being watched in a different way now.
It's strange because I remember I was on an airplane a couple of years ago, and they have the different and it said rom, and then under classics, it said Easy A, and my daughter goes, looked at, it's a classic, and then like the next movie was, I'm not even gonna tell you what it is, but it was not a classic. So I don't, I think the word classic is it just means a movie that somebody remembers.
But it's still remembered, it's still talked about. It's still sort of film, I think, still gets kind of like retrospective showings at kind of cinemas and stuff, which is great.
Well, the themes of that movie, I mean, about rumors and trolls have just gotten, I mean, the social media has, it's just gotten worse. It's just gotten worse. So, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense for it to be relevant. But thank you so much for your time today, Will. It's been a pleasure speaking to you again. Hopefully, by the time the third one rolls around, we can do this in person. Who knows?
In person, yeah. I hope so. Good to see you.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey, you guys!